Welcome to the Stochastic MLB Strategy Show. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And this show is sponsored by SoRare MLB, which is a collection of digital trading cards and an NFT-based free-to-play fantasy baseball game. We will talk about SoRare a little bit more later on. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. A lot of speculation in chat, Adam, about why we are late. They're thinking maybe I drank too much THC last night. Maybe there are technical difficulties. No, I was actually just recording another VOD that took me a little bit longer than I anticipated. Adam, how you doing this morning?
Doing pretty well. Last night was okay. Made money on DraftKings, lost on FanDuel, got destroyed betting. Meant to tweet out my betting results this morning. I haven't gotten a chance, but it's pretty comical. So I'll put that out there later. But yeah, looking forward to another slate.
I think I was the only person on the whole Stochastic team who did not make money last night. Apparently, I made too many adjustments to my projections. I saw Greg and Steve tied for first place in one contest. You made money. I guess those are my only three examples.
Overall, I did not make money. I just made money on DraftKings.
Okay, well, that's something at least. I got absolutely crushed last night. I downgraded Keegan Murray a little bit too much. I was like, this seems like too much ownership. I'm going to cut back on his projection a little bit. So I got to, I think I still had like 50%. So not like really cut back too much, but every decision that I made going away from the projections yesterday definitely did not work out in my favor. Boosted Austin Reeves ahead of D'Angelo Russell. Just not a lot of good decisions by me in terms of the NBA slate yesterday.
Yeah, it seemed like one where outside of Trey Lyles, I think if you tried to get creative, you probably just got destroyed. Trey Lyles obviously was in the winning lineup, played a ton, but I didn't play basketball tournaments, but I was watching the game and kind of just paying attention to the results. And it was like, all right, well, Gary Payton sucked. Keegan Murray smashed. Not that Keegan Murray was a bad play by any stretch. It was just that we talked about it. There's minutes volatility in that rotation, and he was going to be wildly popular. So probably somebody I would have been under the field on in tournaments. He smashed. Kevin Huerter sucked once again. I think all of the Memphis secondary pieces sucked. I mean, everybody on Memphis sucked, but
right.
It didn't outside of Lyles. I don't think it was a very easy slate to win if you played contrarian.
Yeah, I played a ton of Kevin Huerter. That was one of the stands that I was like, well, they were winning when they played Kevin Huerter. Maybe they're going to figure that out and start playing him more again. And of course, didn't work out.
I will say it here partly so I remember it for next time. Game 7, the Trey Lyles piece is actually going to be really interesting because obviously he played so much last game because of Sabonis being in foul trouble, but his shooting also changed that matchup. And there were multiple coaches on the Kings advocating for keeping Trey Lyles on the floor instead of Sabonis. So I'm kind of just putting that out there now. So maybe I won't forget to talk about it next time.
So somebody in chat, please remember. Please remind Adam if he doesn't bring it up during his next NBA deeper dive or something. You can remind Adam to play some Trey Lyles. Although maybe that'll be tomorrow, so maybe you won't even be on a show anyway. We should. We do have.
All right, I'll put that information out there now because I won't be there.
Yeah, exactly. We do have 55 minutes before lock of the early slate on DraftKings, so we should jump into it. We start with your Baltimore Orioles at the Tigers. We have Dean Kramer on the mound for the Orioles, Eduardo Rodriguez for the Tigers. Adam, any interest in these pitchers?
A little bit. Dean Kramer is decent, nothing special, but obviously the Tigers offense isn't great either. Solid park to pitch in, especially in terms of limiting power. Kramer's pulling 11% ownership, 11% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on DraftKings at 6,700. Just looks fine. On the other side, Rodriguez is kind of similar, solid enough pitcher. The Orioles are a better offense than Detroit, but I do think they are weaker against left-handed pitching just because of the makeup of their lineup. Cedric Mullins, one of their best hitters, is worse against lefties. Gunnar Henderson's not even in the lineup against lefties. Rutschman's not in the lineup, period, just in this game. So it does water down the lineup a bit. And Rodriguez is cheap. So he's getting 28.5% ownership. I think I would actually go to him before Kramer. But at the same time, I think the ownership gap is too big. I'd go to Rodriguez first. But if you use top stacks or top pitchers tool as a gauge, 15% chance of being top 2 for Rodriguez, 11.5 for Kramer. So yes, Rodriguez is the guy you should go to first at $100 less, but he shouldn't be getting 2.5 times the ownership either.
Yep. Adam, I'm chuckling because I see here Aha Bros in chat won $100,000 last night. Bro comes in and says it did work out, Neil, and Adam immediately times him out. Does not want to deal with Aha Bros victory lapping $100,000 last night. I enjoyed that. Good to see you, Peter. Congrats on last night, and Well done, Adam. Just get him out of there. Get this winning talk out of the chat.
Where's Brandon Katz? I would take that over people winning 100K and talking about it.
Yeah, screw you, bro. All right. How about the bats in Baltimore, Detroit?
Yeah, so I think that the bats here are actually kind of interesting, especially since both pitchers are pulling some ownership. Neither team is in a particularly likely spot to succeed. It's not a park that you love taking hitters in. 5.5% chance of being top stack for Baltimore. Detroit coming in at 4%. 5% ownership to Detroit, only 4 to Baltimore. So you do have some pinch hit risk with the Orioles towards the bottom of the order. Like Ryan McKenna certainly could start this game and not finish it. Joey Ortiz maybe gets subbed out later, but both of those guys, it also sort of depends on the score. Like if the Orioles offense is doing well, it's likely they stay in the game anyway, because McKenna is a very good defensive outfielder. Ortiz is a very good defensive infielder. But at the top of the order, you do get lineup bumps for guys like Austin Hayes, who's back and hitting leadoff. Jorge Mateo is up to 5th. He's hitting really well this year so far, clearly small sample, but he did show pretty big signs of improvement last year, half over half. He had like a 72 WRC plus in the first half last year, 94 in the second half. So not saying that I think he's actually now some like incredibly above average hitter, but even if he is just like a league average hitter that has power and immense stolen base upside, that's a really good, really high upside fantasy play. And now he's hitting 5th. So there is, you have a $2,300 James McCann hitting 6th as well. Certainly some pinch hit risk there. If you get deep into the game, maybe they go to Rutschman, but it is a double header. So I assume that they would prefer to just keep Rutschman on the bench here. So certainly some interest here. Kramer, decent enough pitcher, but will give up some power. Riley Green in particular looks good. No Kerry Carpenter in the lineup does make the Tigers a little bit less appealing.
Okay. And then how would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Rodriguez 1, either Orioles or Kramer 2, the other one 3, Tigers 4.
Okay. Easy enough. Second game of the slate, Pittsburgh at Washington. We have Rich Hill on the mound for the Pirates, Patrick Corbin for the Nationals. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
No, 2 just pretty unappealing pitchers. Corbin is someone who, if like in some ways, I think has just managed to get unlucky for the last, year or 2, but clearly still isn't the same pitcher that he has been in the past. And this Pirates team is just better than I think people expected, certainly than I expected. I know they have a good win-loss record. And even when I, sort of found that out, I was just, yeah, whatever, it's the Pirates. It's probably not backed up by anything. Their run differential is huge. They look, at least so far, like they have played like a winning team. Now, obviously that could fall off, but the top of this order with Hayes, Reynolds, McCutchen is solid. Connor Joe's not bad. Everybody else is sort of guys you don't expect to do a whole lot, but I don't really anticipate getting to either pitcher. You could certainly make the case that Hill has a good matchup, but I still just don't think you need to get there.
Yeah, I probably need to stop thinking about the Pirates as a team that you can pick on with pitchers, because they just look at the lineup, it looks better. Yeah, and they have they have bats that had some pedigree, right? Like look like they should be pretty good. So maybe they are just like kind of coming into their own this year. What about the bats in this one? Do you have any interest in playing the Pirates against Patrick Corbin or the Nats? What's your level of interest?
Pirates are actually second highest in the top stacks tool. They are projected to go a little bit over owned when you compare ownership to top stack, but they also have an 8% chance of being the top value. So that means in general that you should allow for the ownership to be a little bit higher than top stack before you start being worried that they're over owned, because it means you're able to build, higher upside lineups around them as well. Just a pretty inexpensive team. You have the 3 guys at the top that are 4,600 plus. And then after that, Connor Joe is 4K and everybody else is less expensive in a good matchup against Corbin. So I do think they look good. Certainly happy to get to them. On the other side for the Nats, good matchup, but not a ton of hitters that you really like getting to. They're middle of the pack in top stack percentage at 4.5%. We have them projected against Velasquez right now, it looks like, but 12.5% projected ownership, 18% chance of being the top value stack.
Nice. And how would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Pirates bats 1, Nats bats 2, either pitcher 3, 4.
Okay. I'm trying to see if the FanDuel top stacks is fixed. I had gotten some messages that maybe it wasn't working. I don't. It looks like Rich Hill is in here. Maybe it is. Maybe it is fixed. If anybody in chat is playing on FanDuel, can you double check for me? Because I got a couple messages earlier that the FanDuel top stacks, top pitchers might have been broken earlier this morning. I think it looks okay now, but do let me know if that is still broken, and we can try to alert somebody who can do something about it. All right. Kansas City at Minnesota. A little bit rainy here today, but I think the game plays. Brad Keller on the mound for the Royals. Bailey Ober for the Twins. Any interest in the pitchers, Adam?
So Ober's not in the DraftKings player pool for unknown reasons. They've been really bad so far this year at just understanding what players are going to play in the major leagues. Ober, obviously, therefore not an option. Brad Keller at 7,200, not particularly appealing here. Not a great strikeout pitcher. When he's on, he does a decent job keeping the ball on the ground, limiting runs, all of that. But 4.9 implied run total for the Twins. Don't really see a reason to be getting to too much Keller.
Okay. And how about the bats in this one?
So Kansas City doesn't look overly appealing. Ober is a pretty solid pitcher. He's somebody that, at a reasonable price tag, I would have interest in playing here, but that's not an option. We have left-handed power typically is, I think, what's caused Ober problems. But even that, actually, no, right-handed power has been the bigger issue. 212 expected ISO to righties, 159 to lefties. That probably evens out over a larger sample. But either way, it's kind of the same thing with Kansas City, where if you get to Witt, Pasquantino, Melendez, Perez, any of that is fine. But after that, it drops off. No Franmil Reyes in the lineup. Nick Prado's hitting fifth. Doesn't appear he's in the DraftKings player pool either. So that hurts, stacking Kansas City. On the other side, I do have interest in Minnesota. Keller's not a bad pitcher, but doesn't miss a lot of bats, or not a bad pitcher in terms of run prevention, but doesn't miss a lot of bats. You have Minnesota third in the top stacks to an 8% chance of being the top stack, 5.5% projected ownership. Plenty of power in the Minnesota lineup with Kepler, Correa, Polanco, Buxton, Larnach, Miranda, Gallo. Jeffers is a solid catching option. Like this lineup top to bottom, whether it's from a value standpoint or just an overall hitter upside standpoint, is pretty appealing. The only, negatives here are, one, the park isn't great, and two, Keller since the start of last year, 151 expected ISO to lefties, 137 to righties. Both of those numbers are pretty solid, but still plenty of upside, plenty of talent in this Minnesota lineup.
Definitely a lineup that I'm excited about. Can you rank the four sides of this one for me?
Minnesota bats 1, Kansas City bats 2, Keller 3. Ober would be 2 if playable.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out what the ats are for people that I need to alert here. So 1 second. I'll start with this one and hopefully somebody responds. I'm assuming that they're already working on it. I would imagine we have people who are always checking this stuff. So I think that they're probably already on it, trying to fix the FanDuel data, but just wanted to send them a quick message just in case.
Just at channel and piss off Kajeski. That'll get everybody's attention.
Yeah. Kajeski would love that if I at the channel. I sent it to one team. Well, hopefully that works out. All right. Seattle at Toronto. We have Chris Flexen on the mound for the Mariners, Kevin Gausman for the Jays. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, anytime Gausman's pitching, there's going to be at least some interest there. Not a great matchup against the Mariners, but he is a very good pitcher. He's second in top 2 pitcher percentage at 36%, 38% projected ownership on DraftKings at 10.5. Not a ton to say about him. He's just a really, really good pitcher. On the other side, not looking to get the flex in against the Blue Jays.
Okay, and then how about the bats in this game?
The Blue Jays bats look pretty good here against Flexen. Just not a great pitcher, an offense that has a lot of power. Oh, never mind. They're at the top. I didn't see them at the top. I was like pretty surprised Toronto's not higher. But yeah, they're first in top stack percentage at 12.5%, 12% projected ownership. The reason the ownership is relatively low there is that they are expensive. So it's going to be tough to get to this team plus Strider and Gausman, or Strider or Gausman. So that's kind of the problem, and that's why you're seeing a little bit less ownership. But if you can get there, 5.6 implied run total, good park for power, flex in a pitcher that doesn't miss a lot of bats, 203 expected ISO to righties since the start of last year. He's been much better limiting power to lefties with a 138 expected ISO, but that doesn't help you a lot when you're facing this lineup. Springer, Bichette, Guerrero, Chapman all hit from the right side. Merrifield's a righty, Jansen's a righty, Dalton Varsho's a lefty, but still happy to play him. Brandon Belt's still cheap. You can use him to offset some of the cost here. Like if you're stacking Toronto, obviously you prefer playing Vlad Guerrero at first base, but you can get what should be a lower owned Brandon Belt in your stack, and then also be upgrading one-offs and pitchers somewhere else by playing Belt over Guerrero in tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what is your level of interest in the bats overall?
Extremely interested in Toronto, not interested in the Mariners.
Okay, and then how would you rank the four sides of the game?
Gausman 1, Blue Jays 2, Mariners 3, Flexen 4.
Okay. All right. So I'm a little discrepancy. I already got a response about it says Rich thinks that the very early slate still looks like it needs to be updated, but the early slate looks okay, maybe. Is that the case? Is it just the very early slate that we're having issues with? I haven't looked at FanDuel closely enough to know what the different slates are here, but can anybody confirm? Is it just the very early slate that we're having issues with? All right, we will move on to the next game while we try to get that figured out with the team. Make sure we've got that going, which is Atlanta at the New York Mets. Little bit of weather, some rain going on here, but I think it probably looks good to play. We have Spencer Strider on the mound, of course, for the Braves. So I guess this is kind of an important one to know that it's going to play. Spencer Strider on the mound for the Braves. Tyler McGill for the Mets. Adam, you playing these pitchers today?
Yeah, Strider for sure. I mean, barring weather. So my expectation here is that this game starts in a delay, but then they get it in. There was a lot of talk yesterday on Twitter about this actually being a very difficult series for these teams to make up, which normally that wouldn't be the case because it used to be that, teams in the same division just play each other a million times, but that's not the case. They have a more balanced schedule this year. So it was going to be really difficult to make these games up. Plus you're going to have bad weather all weekend. And so we saw them show a lot, really try and get that game in yesterday. They got 5 innings in, got an official game before they couldn't play anymore. It looks like it's likely to be messy around the first pitch, but then clear up later. I assume they're going to just wait this out. It's a Saturday. Nobody has anything better to do. So I assume we're going to go. And as long as we don't get an early postponement, definitely looking to get the Strider here. He's just, like I said yesterday, him and Jacob deGrom are on their own separate planet of pitchers. Obviously, things didn't work out with deGrom yesterday because he got hurt again. But they're just, 40% strikeout guys. DraftKings did finally price Strider up. He's 11.9. So you at least have to start making some decisions there. Like it's going to be tough to pay $12K for a pitcher, nearly $12K for a pitcher, and then get, the best stacks. That's nice at least. But still very, very happy to get to Strider. On the other side for Tyler McGill, decent pitcher, pulling 10% ownership, 13% chance of being top 2 at 8,600. Not the best matchup against the Braves, but does have enough talent that from a contrarian tournament standpoint, he makes some sense.
Did you say that it's nice that you can't play the best stacks with the best pitchers? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you that I think it's more interesting. I think there's an argument to be made that sharper players benefit if you can just play if people are mispriced, but it's more fun if you have to actually make some concessions.
Yeah. No, I think you and I had talked about that, like when we had one of those core slates where like the best pitchers were free and the cores bats were free. And it was just like, all right, well, it's kind of fun in tournaments. Like you're going to get, even more variance, I guess, because like you're not like 30-40% of the field is just playing the clear top plays. But it does make it fun from a tournament standpoint to just be like, all right, well, I know what 30% of the field is going to do. And if that fails, then I'm in a really good spot. But just from a playing standpoint, like the argument from a DFS site standpoint for soft pricing is it's more fun for casual players to be able to just play their favorite guys. It's more fun for me to be able to play my favorite guys too. And I don't get to do it unless they're not 30% owned.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. All right. Are you playing any bats in this Atlanta Mets game?
If I did, I would go to the Atlanta side. Just, trying to get the upside that they offer. McGill is good, but he is not Spencer Strider good. 190 expected ISO to lefties since last year, 227 to righties. So you do have some power issues there. Only an 18% strikeout percentage to lefties, 28% to righties. Now, most of the scary bats in the Braves lineup are right-handed, so he gives up power, but he does also strike them out. Matt Olson looks really good here. He's also expensive at 6K, but a left-handed power hitter. So, a pitcher that doesn't strike lefties out at a high clip and gives up a lot of power facing Matt Olson, that looks pretty good. Michael Harris looks good. Rosario, if he's hitting in the middle of the lineup, is a nice value option. And then the righties still look good from a power standpoint, even though they're going to strike out more often.
Okay. And then how would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
And as a stack, they're actually projected to go pretty under-owned as well. A big reason there is that they have a 0.5% chance of being the top value stack. And when you have people prioritizing Strider and Gausman at real price tags, it just makes it so tough to get there. But it makes it – this is why I think it's fun when pricing is more correct, is it makes it really fun to say like, all right, well, I can get basically an unowned Atlanta team with all the upside in the world. And all I have to do is just find a couple mid-range pitchers that can have good games. To me, that's more fun than just saying like, oh, well, yeah, I can play Strider and every hitter I want. As far as ranking this game, Strider 1, Braves bats 2, McGill 3, Mets bats 4.
Okay. And did I hear you say that Spencer Strider and Jacob deGrom on another planet?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say that. Good segue here to take a look at So Rare, because I had both of those pitchers in my lineup this week for So Rare. Of course, did not work out for DeGrom because he had to leave the game early. Is that just a thing, Adam? Now is DeGrom like gonna do we have to factor that in that he's gonna leave so many starts early, or is it
It's
silly
just
to
going to be a
factor that in?
massive annoyance because there is no way you can factor it in.
Right, because like if you don't play him, like he's pretty likely to just be Jacob DeGrom and crush the slate. And then if you do play him, it's still not going to happen all that often. But disappointed in terms of this week because obviously he only gets the one start. He's not going to start again during this period. Only got me 14 points.
The
Hopefully
thing that
Spencer
really
Strider.
sucks is like obviously it's really frustrating and annoying for fantasy that he keeps getting hurt. But the alternative to that is that it ends up being a real injury and he gets shut down and you don't get to see Jacob DeGrom pitch again.
Right.
So like I'll put up with the every 15 days dealing with Jacob DeGrom leaving a start early to actually get 2 full starts a month out of him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So nothing you can do about it. You just got to play Jacob DeGrom and hope that he does recover and that he's going to be Jacob DeGrom going forward for the Rangers. So rare again, really fun way to play fantasy sports. It's not daily. This is they have 2 contests per week. They last 3 to 4 days. You buy these cards, and again, you don't have to buy cards. The reason that I haven't really been highlighting the free contest is because when I selected my cards to start, I just did it not spending any time on it, and I picked really crappy cards and have not even been playing the free contest. But you can go ahead, like if you want to play those free contests, just to dip your toes in. I know we've had a few people have said that they're going to dip their toes in with the free contest, but when you sign up, they let you choose some free cards, some common cards you can use in these common contests. And as you can see here, even in the common contest, you can win cards that are limited number to 5,000. And these ones you can actually sell. They're worth some money. Some of them worth pretty good money. So really fun way to dip your toes in if you are new to So Rare. Just want to check it out. I've been playing now since NBA. I've been pretty serious about. Now I'm just getting into baseball. Of course, as we see here, not doing the best at baseball so far. I think that my lineups have been competitive, and you can see here I'm in 266 play, so looking okay here. But just kills me that DeGrom only got 14 points here because finally my bats are actually doing well. The Coors stack working out for me and Greg. We set this lineup on a live show on maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I don't remember what day it was, but the bats actually working out in Coors. But then this 14 from DeGrom just killing me. Hopefully Spencer Strider can have a big game here today. But it's a really, really fun way to play fantasy sports. They still have NBA contests going on as well. But I'm getting into this MLB stuff. Picked up a bunch of Coors bats for this slate, and I'm probably going to continue trying to hammer Coors on these slates when they are available. Check it out though if you have not yet checked out So Rare. Really fun way to attack fantasy sports. And I will put the link in the description in chat. We already have the link in the description of this video, so you should be able to find it there. I'm also going to throw it into chat for anybody who wants to check out So Rare MLB. It really is a lot of fun, and you can play for free. Again, if you haven't signed up, they will give you the option of some free cards, some of those common cards, and you can enter contests where you can actually win real prizes that are worth money. So make sure you check that out. I just did put the link into chat. All right, we better get back to the slate. We've got another 35 minutes before lock, Adam. We've got the Cubs at the Marlins. Caleb Killian on the mound for the Cubs. Edward Cabrera for the Marlins. Any interest in these pitchers?
Cabrera's got plenty of talent. He's pulling 13% ownership at 8K, 16% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Don't mind getting him as an SP2. He is the type of guy that I think you could use if you are looking to make, those pay up to be contrarian stacks like the Braves. Cabrera at least does have a lot of talent. Young, inconsistent, all of that, but still very, very good stuff. Can get a lot of strikeouts. Less interested in getting the Killian, although he is 5K. 9% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, but also a 31% chance of being a top 2 value. I guess there's some case to be made for just like hope he scores 12, 13, 14 fantasy points and you get, whatever bats you want. But I think that there's also pitchers I'd rather do that with.
Yep, absolutely.
At least one of them.
Andrew Martinez sent me the app probably because he knew that I would then ask you the question because I don't know the answer to this kind of thing. Maybe you do, Adam. How do the Nationals fare against left-handed pitchers as far as striking out? Do you have that information readily available, Adam?
I don't. They shouldn't strike out a lot. They have a lot of right-handed bats. Hill isn't a very good strikeout pitcher anyway. There's 3 lefties in the lineup, so and they're not a team that strikes out a lot in general.
Okay. Are you playing any bats here in Miami?
I don't mind getting into some Miami. Josh Chisholm in particular looks good. He is where'd that game go? Yeah, 4,900 outfield only on DraftKings. So I like getting there. They are kind of interesting from a full stack standpoint because the bottom of the order is cheap. So you would probably want to pay up for Chisholm. Arise is decently priced, or Cooper and Soler. But after that, in their projected lineup, hitters 5 through 9, Brian De La Cruz 3,200 is the most expensive of those 5. So you can really get an overall cheap stack if you use a couple of those guys at the bottom of the order against an unproven pitcher in Killian, and then be paying up for good pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Probably Miami bats 1, Cabrera 2, Cubs bats 3, Killian 4.
Okay. For any of you who prefer the written word to consuming content, we do have EMAC in chat. Just says that the free Spotlight Pitches and Top Stacks tool that EMAC writes every day, great article, is available now for the early afternoon main and late slate. So check that out as well. Maybe pull that up while you're listening to the show. Get an extra opinion there from EMAC, because EMAC does this article every single day, and it really is I think the best article that we have out there. Of course, Adam, you're doing some written work as well on the weekdays these days, right? You're not doing it on the weekend though.
Yeah, not on the weekend, but Monday through Friday, I have just an MLB notes article, just general thoughts on each game and how it affects DFS.
Yeah, nice way to get a full overview of the slate. I think EMAC just focuses on some in particular stacks. Like he just picks out his favorite stacks and pitchers, but Adam gives a more full overview during the week. Anyway, did you rank? Can you rank the sides of this Cubs Marlins game?
Yeah, I did. Cabrera.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Marlins, Cabrera, Cubs, Killian.
Okay. All right. We have Cincinnati at Oakland. Hunter Green on the mound for the Reds. Kyle Miller for the A's. Any interest in the pitchers here?
A little bit in Kyle Muller because he's really cheap and facing the Reds, who we know aren't a very good offense, good pitcher's park. If you have to pay all the way down, Muller looks okay. I don't think you need a lot of him. On the other side, Hunter Green certainly looks good at $9K. Cheaper price tag than the guys all the way at the top in Gossman and Strider. Good matchup, good park, all of that. Very high upside pitcher as well. So, yeah, I like the pitching here. Muller in the sense of he's just a decent value if you have to pay all the way down. Green in the sense of like he's actually looks good.
All right. And what about the bats in this game?
Not a ton of interest. The what the hell that I said a minute ago was actually because I had set something wrong in Fantasy Cruncher and I noticed Oakland was showing up a ton. And I was just like, that can't be what I'm trying to do. So now I'm sure they'll score like 15 runs. But no, I mean, if you're going to bats here, I think Muller is the weaker of the 2 pitchers. Looking to Jonathan India, Spencer Steer, Tyler Stevenson, all those guys are fine. The Reds are cheap, so you could pay up for pitching as well. We do have them 4th in top stack percentage at 8%, 9% projected ownership, but also a 19% chance of being a top value stack. So this is likely to be a team that you get to a lot. If you're just, running projections, it's going to give you some cheap Reds bats, Strider, Gossman, or Strider, Green, or some combination of those guys, and then fill it out with really good one-offs. And that's a perfectly fine approach.
Yeah.
As far as the Oakland side, not particularly interested. Green does have some power issues to go along with his very good strikeout stuff, but this park downplays power, and the A's don't have a lot of it anyway. If you were looking to grab like one bat here, I mean, like you can kind of make cases. Brent Rooker has power. He's been hitting the hell out of the ball this year. Shea Langoliers has power for a catcher. Ruiz has like 11 or 12 stolen bases already, so you get cheap stolen base upside there. Noda has enough power to do some damage, but overall, I think the A's are one of the lower probability spots. So it's more so if you just grab 1 or 2 of those cheap guys, that have power or speed, that's fine. But certainly prefer the Cincinnati side.
Okay. And how would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Green, Reds, Muller, A's.
Ryan Riedenbaum asked, for the 555 very early slate on fantasy, that's a very large GPP, would you prefer Rodriguez to Gossman? Rodriguez allows you to get to Pirates and Toronto stacks. What do you think, Adam?
I need to read it. Where'd it go?
Rodriguez or Gausman for the very early.
Oh, the question was just Rodriguez versus Gossman?
Yeah, for the very early.
Okay, I got confused with like the Pirates or whatever. I mean, I would prefer Gossman if you can make it work.
Yeah, so we have Gossman with a 7.4% chance. No, sorry, this is the top stacks tool. Yeah, I'm in the wrong tool. Okay, hang on one sec. I was thinking that FanDuel very early. Well, that is updated, by the way. Rich got back to me. He was able to update that tool. So you should be able to use that. Is this the early slate, not the very early? I'm not seeing Gossman FanDuel early. Anyway, you've given your answer. What am I not seeing here? I feel like maybe I need to refresh. Anyway, you already gave your answer, and we should move on. All right, we have Cleveland at Boston. Final game of the early slate. We have Zach Plesac on the mound for the Guardians, Brian Bello for the Red Sox. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
Bayo's not in the player pool on DraftKings. Again, not really sure why or how. Plesac, not really looking to get there against the Red Sox. 6,400 is a cheap enough price tag, but just not a really good strikeout pitcher. If you're going in this range, I prefer getting the Kramer against the Tigers. I prefer getting the Rodriguez against the O's. I prefer paying all the way down to Muller if you need the savings. So not interested in the pitcher here.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was able to, I had to refresh the very early on FanDuel. It is updated. We have Kevin Gossman with a 23% chance of being the top pitcher on the early slate, 33% projected ownership. We've got Rodriguez with a 12.4% chance of being the top pitcher with 11.6% projected ownership. So, you can make a case for going to Rodriguez if you really like the stack. That's still pretty good odds of being the top pitcher. But yeah, Kevin Gossman top on the slate just in terms of likelihood of being the top pitcher. All right. What about the bats in Boston here?
Bats look okay. Plesac, certainly not a great pitcher. Will give up some power. You do have some power in the Red Sox lineup as well. Since the start of last season, 183 expected ISO to lefties for Plesac, 199 to righties. Doesn't strike out either side of the plate much. And this park, does play up right-handed power a bit. So you have a lot of lefties in this lineup. 6 of the top 7 hitters are left-handed. But Justin Turner from the right side can take advantage of the monster. And then you get, Yoshida, who looks good, Verdugo, Devers, Duran. Happy to get to any of those guys. Cleveland has upside too. We saw Brian Bayo come up last year, really struggle with his control at times. Did get unlucky a lot. He's a really good ground ball pitcher, also has good strikeout stuff. When he's on, you don't want bats against him because you're pounding the ball into the ground or you're striking out. But he does still have enough control issues where he can be working behind in a lot of counts, putting a lot of extra guys on base. And I do like stacking against guys like that just because so quickly things can unravel and you can get big innings. So outside of, saying Jose Ramirez obviously is always a great play, there's not much individually I like from Cleveland because it's more so a spot where if Bayo has his good stuff, nobody looks good, but if he doesn't, they all look good. So, if you're hand building, this is a spot where I'd ideally be either stacking Cleveland or not getting to Cleveland.
Okay, so this is about where you would not be doing one-offs from Cleveland.
I like in 150 lineups you are because there's nothing you can really do about it. If I'm hand building and I actually have the ability to look at each individual lineup, I would, outside of Jose Ramirez, probably not love one-offs here.
Okay, makes sense. And how would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Red Sox bats 1, Cleveland bats 2, Plesac 3.
Okay, and yeah, we can't play Bayo. All right, so we've reached the end of the early slate. Let's start with, if you're playing 3 stacks, Adam, 3 max contests, you want to play 3 different stacks. Which 3 stacks would you go to?
Toronto, Pittsburgh, and I like Atlanta.
All right, and then what about 3 favorite pitchers from the early slate?
Strider, Gossman. Actually, Strider, Green. I'm going to put him ahead of Gossman just because you do get the 1,500 in savings, and I think that's going to matter on this slate. And I guess 6,600 Rodriguez.
All right, so Chris Flexen was just scratched. They announced that Easton McGee is going to start for the Mariners. Do you know anything about Easton McGee, Adam?
I will in a second.
All right, we will we'll revisit this game.
He is a former 4th-round pick. He's 25. He made 1 relief appearance, went 3 innings for Tampa Bay last year. Other than that, he has never pitched in the major leagues. 5 starts at AAA for Seattle this year, 28 2/3 innings pitched, 3.74 FIP, 4.56 xFIP. Not a great strikeout guy, 20.3%. Didn't walk a lot of guys. The bat projects him for a 17.5% strikeout percentage. Bat projects 1.6 home runs per 9. It's somebody that I'm still taking Blue Jays against.
Do you have more interest in the Blue Jays against Easton McGee relative to Chris Flexen?
Kind of the same because McGee probably isn't as good as Flexen. Not that Flexen's good, but also it can be really difficult. Major league players, so much of their preparation and everything is game plan based. And
right
now you just have some random dude they've never seen before and probably know nothing about. And they have, an hour or whatever to figure out who the hell he is. So it always does kind of scare me when you get a random dude thrown in like this. So I think all things equal, it's about the same. Like, it's still a very high upside spot. It's also still very hard to hit. And I kind of like that Flexen's at least a known commodity, whereas this guy isn't.
Yeah, it's always a weird thing for me when it's like, okay, theoretically this should be a bump to the bats, or I mean, it happens in all sports where you get these things where it's like, this seems like it should be better, but also like it's a change, and like if
Right.
you already really like the environment as it was, changes are like not necessarily good. So like even though theoretically it's like he's probably a worse pitcher, like long term, he's probably a pitcher that you would rather play against, but like on short notice, they're not going to have as much time to prepare for him. So yeah, I think I'm with you. It seems like it's not actually the huge upgrade that I would want it to be. But obviously don't play Chris Flexen. I don't think we're playing Chris Flexen anyway. But yeah, it's a interesting spot. Do you think it affects cash games for you at all? Like, is this a spot because of the extra volatility? No.
No.
All right.
No, I mean, I'm not changing anything I was doing. And I actually mostly playing the big DraftKings tournament today just because I felt like it. But
Nice.
yeah, I'm not one. I don't have time now to change anything I was doing, but also, yeah, I wouldn't anyway. Like, they're still going to project well.
Okay.
And it's not like there is no volatility. It's still baseball. Like, even if Flexen was pitching, they're going to fail 85% of the time.
Yeah. Did I ask you your 3 favorite pitchers?
Yeah.
Okay. Strider, Gossman, and who
I
are you?
went Strider, Green, Rodriguez just because of the value piece.
Yep. Makes sense. And then we need to do our home run picks.
Yeah. I will go with the newly paid Brian Reynolds.
I was thinking about Brian Reynolds, but then I'm gonna go with Brian Hayes. So we're gonna go with a couple Pittsburgh bats here against Patrick Corbin. Seems like a good spot to target. All right, I think that will do it for the early slate, unless anybody else has any questions. How many games are on the late slate here? I mean, we've got a little bit of time to try and get out a little bit early, but yeah, we got 5 games on the late slate. Let's go over it real quickly here. Pull it up because I don't think we have a later MLB show today. First game on the evening slate is the Yankees at the Rangers. We have Johnny Brito on the mound for the Yankees, Nathan Eovaldi for the Rangers. Adam, any interest in these 2 pitchers?
Not too much. Eovaldi looks okay at 8,800. He typically can go deep into games. You are getting a watered down Yankees lineup. No Judge, no Stanton, no Donaldson. So not as tough a matchup. 3.9 implied run total on a 5-game slate. I don't really have a problem with Eovaldi. He's pulling 33% ownership, 33% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So just the watered down lineup and the slate size makes him look better than he normally would. On the other side, not interested in Brito. Not a lot of good, or not much in the way of strikeout stuff. He is cheap, so he's getting 16% ownership, but I kind of just doubt that you need to pay down that much.
Yep. And then what about the bats in this one?
Texas looks pretty good. Still no Corey Seager, which sucks, but Semien, Lowe, Garcia, Young, Heim, all these guys are just high upside bats, and then you have some cheap bats sticking around out stacks as well. On the Yankee side, not as interested just because you don't have most of the hitters that I would want to play.
All right, and then how would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Rangers bats 1, Eovaldi 2, Yankees bats, I guess Brito 3 just because of how cheap he is. Yankees bats 4.
All right. Let's move right on to the second game on the late slate, the main slate, I guess. Tampa Bay at Chicago White Sox. We have Calvin Foucher on the mound for the Rays, Lance Lynn for the Sox. Any interest in the pitchers, Adam?
So bullpen game basically for Tampa Bay. So no interest there. On the Lance Lynn side, it's a quality pitcher. It's a brutal matchup. We've seen that throughout this series. Really, you had Cease and then you had Giolito. Lynn 7,600 on DraftKings, pulling 30% ownership, 25% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. He is at least priced down a bit, so that helps mitigate some of the risk. It's somebody we're on a bigger slate. I wouldn't be interested, but on a 5-gamer, I think you have to be at least somewhat interested.
Humboldt just asked, who is starting for Seattle? It's Easton McGee is the new starter for Seattle, who is apparently a righty.
Yeah. Absolute made-up name.
Exactly. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. Any interest in the bats here in the Tampa White Sox game?
Tampa Bay, you always have interest.
Yeah.
Lance Lynn does typically struggle more with left-handed power than right-handed power, so you have that. Brandon Lau, Wander Franco, Josh Lowe has speed. Yeah, so like Lynn's not a pitcher that I typically go out of my way to roster hitters against, but Tampa Bay, especially when they're only playing 9% ownership on a 5-game slate, is going to be a pretty appealing tournament stack.
Yep, absolutely. And then how would you rank the 4 sides?
I guess Lynn, just because of the salary, Rays bats, White Sox bats, and then, I mean, you don't need to play the pitching from Tampa.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense. All right. We'll move on to the next game. But first, I got to tell you guys, we have a great offer from BetMGM. You can get up to $1,000 paid back in bet credits and a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Best deal you can find out there. Again, it's just your first bet that is covered, so you can make a bet up to $1,000. You can't spread out your bets for this one, but you can make a bet up to $1,000, and you're going to get paid back in bet credits. So if you make your first bet on BetMGM after signing up, you make $1,000 bet, they're going to give you $1,000 back in bet credits. Great deal there, and it doesn't have to be $1,000. You put $20 in, they will cover you your first bet up to that $20, and then of course the free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Always a great thing to be added to any of these offers. That's a great value. You get all the tools that we're talking about here: top pitchers tool, top batters tool, and of course it's the full subscription. So it's going to be if you're playing NBA, if you're playing MMA, if you're playing any sport out there, you're going to get access to it with this free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Make sure you check that out. Again, it is you can use promo code Platinum Sub or click the link in the description of this video to take advantage of this offer at BetMGM. So if you're in a state that has access to BetMGM and you haven't yet signed up, make sure you use the link in the description of this video or promo code Platinum Sub when you sign up to take advantage of this offer. $1,000 paid back in bet credits, up to $1,000 paid back in bet credits, and a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. So check that out. All right, Adam, next game here is LA Angels at Milwaukee Brewers. Reed Detmers on the mound for the Angels. Corbin Burns for the Brewers. Any interest in these pitchers?
Yeah, there's certainly interest in both of them. 9,500 for Burns. He's second in top 2 pitcher percentage at 33%, 39.5% projected ownership. For Detmers at 8,500, 25% projected ownership, 27% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Since the start of last season, Burns has a 29% strikeout percentage, 3.03 xFIP. Detmers is a pretty highly regarded pitching prospect, has been hit or miss so far in his career, does have the no-hitter that stands out, but 23% strikeout percentage, 4.2 xFIP. Not the best matchup for either pitcher, but there are still strikeouts for both guys. And again, it's a 5-game slate, so you're just going to get more ownership going here than you normally would.
Right. That's true. How about the bats in this one?
Not a ton. I think if you go to one side, I would go to Milwaukee first. Detmers 154 expected ISO to righties since last year, only 118 to lefties. You do get, Willie Adames, who's going to look like a top shortstop option. Contreras is going to be a top catcher option. Anderson, Brosseau, Voit are all going to offer some value. On the other side, I think Burns is clearly the better pitcher than Detmers, but you do have Trout and Ohtani, so you're always going to have some interest in the Angels, but neither team really stands out to me.
Okay. And then how would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Burns, Detmers, Brewers, and Angels.
Mike Campbell says, Neil, the heater is over, so he's going to change his damn avatar from the Awesemo avatar to Stochastic. I don't think I've ever seen anybody quite like Mike Campbell, because I think there have been like 3 different times now that he's DM'd me his score on a slate, and he displays the stuff where he's winning like $10,000, $15,000, and it's like, oh, you would have lapped the field in the big contest for $100,000. It's not the way he plays. He's not going to those contests, but
good for him, honestly.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive. It just happened the other day in I think it was NBA that he put up like 363 and the winning score was 353 in the main. Just absolutely crushing everything. This is Shaky on Twitter if you're familiar with him. Yeah, he's a great DFS player who generally just plays the lower stakes, smaller contests. So sorry to hear that the heater is over after you won like 3 nights ago, $15,000. Apparently the heater's over.
But no, I mean, in all seriousness, like having the discipline not to just like change up and play massive, like hugely stuff with huge variance that, chasing that 100K payday is actually really important and good.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is. It's a good to have that kind of work ethic isn't the right word. What's the word I'm looking for? Discipline. Good to have that kind of discipline in your content.
Someone asked me on Twitter the other day, like I made a joke about something, DFS losing related. Somebody asked me like what I thought my biggest like issue was at the moment. And like, I think I'm still playing good lineups. Like, I don't have an issue with the way I'm playing. It's just, like bankroll management's always sort of been has always been, I think, my biggest leak. Like,
Me too.
Even going back to poker, like I've just never been good about like, I've always been like, yeah, whatever. If things go poorly, I'll figure it out and get out of it eventually, instead of being like, just make sure things don't go poorly.
Yeah, I'm absolutely the same way. It's rough out there sometimes if you aren't good with bankroll management. Just like, especially like after a win, I'm definitely doubling down, starting to play other contests rather than just like, all right, I'm going to stick to what I'm good at. I start playing every contest, and yeah, with losses, I continue doing. Yeah, it's tough out there sometimes for those of us who are not great at bankroll management, but good for you, Michael. All right, next game we have a Coors game on this slate. We've got Tommy Henry on the mound for the D-backs, Noah Davis for the Rockies. You playing any pitchers in Coors, Adam?
Absolutely not.
Perfect. I think that's a succinct, good enough answer. How about bats?
Yeah, I mean, obviously going to be more appealing here. Worse pitchers than yesterday. Obviously, this game disappointed yesterday, but Henry and Davis both worse than Kelly and Freeland. So bats look really good. 12.5 run total here. You have, in terms of top stack percentage, Arizona coming in first at 28% with 19% projected ownership. Colorado coming in second, 19% chance of being the top stack, 17% projected ownership. So ownership here in terms of, raw numbers is pretty high, but in terms of comparing it to chances of success, it's not even a problem really. So certainly happy to get to Arizona and Colorado bets.
All right. And what's your, how would you rank the four sides?
Arizona bats 1, Colorado bats 2.
Don't play the pitchers.
I'm not playing pitcher.
Yeah. Works for me. Moving on, we have St. Louis at the LA Dodgers. Jordan Montgomery on the mound for the Cardinals. Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers. Are you playing these pitchers, Adam?
Yeah, 2 solid pitchers here. Again, shorter slate. Kershaw comes in first with a 42% chance of being the top, or being a top 2 pitcher. 34% projected ownership. Not a great matchup against the Cardinals, but it's Kershaw. It's a 5-game slate. He's going to look pretty good. Similarly for Montgomery, not a great matchup against the Dodgers, but looks pretty interesting in tournaments because he's only pulling 16% ownership with a 27% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. He's $9,000. So he's $200 more than Evaldi, who's getting double the ownership and has Evaldi's 33% to be top 2. Montgomery's 27. Doesn't really warrant double the ownership there. You have Reed Detmers for 500 less, pulling 25% ownership instead of 16. So I get that it's a tough matchup and everything that could go wrong, but Montgomery does stand out as one of the more under-owned pitchers on the slate.
Okay. And then are you playing any bats against these pitchers?
You can always get to really either stack, but the Dodgers would be the one that I go to first, just based on talent, based on Montgomery, not being quite as good a pitcher as Clayton Kershaw.
Okay. Yep. We got a question. Sam Marcos said, should I start playing bigger entries? Won a huge 50-cent tourney last year and took a couple top 10s, have taken a third this year and a 7th and 2/4 entries with 20,000 people. 1-2 says depends on your bankroll. Mike Campbell says depends on your risk tolerance. And I would say both of those things are true. I think it's a very, personal decision what you should do in this case. And anything to add there, Adam?
No, they're both. It's very, very difficult to say like what you should do because like if you're reliant on your DFS income and like going broke is awful for you, then
Right.
you should be very, 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 very hesitant to move up in stakes ever, which is, again, goes back to my biggest problem.
Me too.
But like if you're doing this where it's secondary income and there's more of an entertainment value on it, then, by all means, take shots at stuff that is more fun for you. So it really just depends on how you're, what it is to you, how you approach things, risk tolerance, because even if you're like, well, I do it mostly for entertainment, but it's going to really bum you out losing more money, then it's still not going to be worth it for you. So it really just kind of depends on what your goals are and how you handle things.
Yep. Good answer. How would you rank the four sides of the St. Louis and Dodgers game?
Kershaw 1, Montgomery 2, Dodgers 3, Cards 4.
All right. So we've reached in, and I saw Fanatic asking about FanDuel. Maybe we can just touch on FanDuel as we go over our top stacks, top pitchers here now. So the usual questions, Adam, you can answer for both sites if you are able. If you're playing just 3 stacks in a 3-entry max contest, which 3 stacks are you going to?
Arizona, Colorado, Tampa on DraftKings would be my expectation. On FanDuel, same thing because it's baseball and nothing changes.
Okay, perfect. And what about pitchers? Top 3 favorite pitchers?
DraftKings, probably Kershaw. Pitching on this slate's tough. It's like a lot of good pitchers, but not in great spots. Kershaw, Burns. I like Montgomery as an SP2 in tournaments on DraftKings because of the lack of ownership. On FanDuel, I think it's probably a Valdi 1. 8,500 is really cheap and a really big gap between him, Kershaw, and Burns. Probably Kershaw 2 if you can afford it, and Burns 3.
Okay. Phoenix says he was not asking, he was responding to something in chat apparently. But there are probably other people who cared about FanDuel. So, not the end of the world to talk about FanDuel a little bit too. And then what are we doing as far as home run? Who's your home run pick in the evening slate? We can't take people from Coors. That is our one rule that we've established. Can't take any bats from Coors.
Yeah. So, Brandon Lau.
Okay. Let's see here. Think about this for a second. I don't know. Man, this is tough. Without Coors, I'm going to go. I don't feel good about it. I'm going to go Marcus Semien. Can't take anybody from Coors. I mean, I guess I could have taken Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is legal, but do you think he's going to play?
No.
Yeah, then I guess I'll just go with Marcus Semien and hope for the best, I guess. Doesn't hit a ton of home runs. All right, I think that we have covered the entire slate. Adam, I know you've got company coming, so maybe we need to get out of this show and we can spend 5 minutes making our lineups. All right, any final thoughts here, Adam?
No, good luck.
All right, good luck, everybody. Let's win some money. And by the way, if you have not yet, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Lock is in 8 minutes. Get those lineups in. Let's win some money. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll catch you later.